Hello, fellow cyborgs. Today I'm here with a book review, that being God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater by Kurt Vonnegut. I read this recently, and I in fact buddy read it with Marissa from Blatantly Bookish. I read this upon recommendation of one of my patrons who paid one of the higher monthly amounts and got the ability to force me to read a book and then review it on my channel. So thank you very much, Carl. Fortunately for both of us, I actually enjoyed this, so this will be a more upbeat sort of review. I'm not going to have to pull teeth to say something nice about this because I was pleasantly surprised by God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater. Before we go any further, let me share my book haiku. Magic of millions, uselessness, humanity, you've got to be kind. So this book kind of intimidated me going into reading this because I had never read a Vonnegut before. I had somehow avoided reading Slaughterhouse-Five in any of my classes in high school or college. And I had heard that Vonnegut was maybe not necessarily a comedic writer, but a satirical writer. Tell me that I'm wrong. Tell me what he actually is in the comment section. I didn't do much research, but as you guys know, me and humor in books tend to not really go together very well. Maybe it's just because I'm a little goth at heart still, but for the most part, I don't resonate with humor in books, with books that are supposed to be funny. For instance, Terry Pratchett's Discworld novels just do not hit the mark with me. The comedy in there, the absurdity just completely misses, and I end up just being bored and irritated. But fortunately, I really enjoyed the humor in this, and there were actually many times, at least half a dozen, where I sniggered out loud and had to explain to my mom what had just happened in this book so she could understand why I was laughing. This book is all about money and value, and specifically the value of people, and if a person's value is directly tied up with how they are purposeful to society at large. This book is all about the Rosewater Foundation. Elliot Rosewater is the most recent inheritor of the Rosewater Foundation, which is full of lots and lots of money. His father, Senator Rosewater, is a very pragmatic, capitalist-loving sort of gentleman, and Elliot Rosewater is much more of a dreamer. Elliot Rosewater takes it upon himself to go to this podunk town called Rosewater, which has to do with their family name, and become the fairy godmother, the benefactor of this town. He becomes one of the volunteer firemen of the town, but he also has this Rosewater Foundation hotline phone where people of the town can call and explain their problems, and he'll either give them a check or invite them over to drink a cup of tea or just listen to their problems, and he becomes, like I said, the fairy godmother of this town that is just forgotten in America. While we're learning about this interesting dreamer character of Elliot, we also are introduced to Norman Mushari, who is one of the lawyers at the company that manages the Rosewater Foundation, and he's discovered that he needs to figure out who is the next in line to inherit the Rosewater Foundation, since Elliot does not have any direct descendants. He doesn't have any children, because Norman is thinking that he's going to represent this forgotten branch of the Rosewater family and hopefully make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, representing them and getting them to be the true inheritors of the Rosewater Foundation. So we kind of see Elliot through Norman's eyes as he's reading through papers and trying to prove that Elliot is insane and therefore cannot be the executor, I guess if you want to call it that, of the Rosewater Foundation anymore. So the reason why I enjoyed this book so much ties into its theme. So I don't particularly like reading about money or thinking about money. I'm not a money savvy sort of person, but this book I found at the end, and this isn't really a spoiler, we're just talking about theme, argued that the value of people comes from the fact that they are human, not necessarily because they are useful to any other person or to society at large. At one point, there's a quote in here where Elliot's trying to teach these newborn babies, welcome to the world, here's what you need to know. And he says, God damn it, you've got to be kind. And I took that away as this book's main message. Now, Marissa had a different interpretation interpretation on the overall determination of that theme. She had a bit of a more cynical viewpoint of the ending than I did, so it's possible that I completely missed something, or it's possible that Marissa was just in a more cynical mood than me when we both finished the book, but that's what I took away from this book as what it was really trying to communicate, and I really appreciate and agree with that sentiment. The other thing I really enjoyed about this book was, like I said, there were so many times where I just chuckled because there were many different quotes and situations in here which were just so ridiculous and yet so realistic in the ridiculousness. It just pokes fun at the absolute ridiculousness of capitalism at times. For instance, here's a quote that comes from page 21. So in this scene, Elliot has drunkenly crashed a science fiction and fantasy writers convention. In Milford, Elliot told the writers that he wished they would learn more about sex and economics and style, but then he supposed that people dealing with really big issues didn't have much time for such things. And it occurred to him that a really good science fiction book had never been written about money. Just think of the wild ways money is passed around on Earth, he said. You don't have to go to planet Trafalmador in Antimatter Galaxy 508G to find weird creatures with unbelievable powers. Look at the powers of an Earthling millionaire. Look at me. I was born naked, just like you, but my God, friends and neighbors, I have thousands of dollars a day to spend. He paused to make a very impressive demonstration of his magical powers, writing a smeary check for $200 for every person there. There's fantasy for you, he said, and you go to the bank tomorrow and it will all come true. It's insane that I should be able to do such a thing with money so important. So like I said, I really just liked how it showcases kind of how ridiculous the idea of money and millionaires are. And these are like real things. Like you don't have to go to planet Trafalmador or whatever I said it was. There's another quote in the similar section. Elliot has just blubbered on stage telling science fiction writers how much he loves their work. Elliot admitted later on that science fiction writers couldn't write for sour apples, but he declared that it didn't matter. He said they were poets just the same, since they were more sensitive to important changes than anybody who was writing well. The hell with talented sparrow farts who write delicately of one small piece of one mere lifetime, when the issues are galaxies, eons, and trillions of souls yet to be born. I really love the word sparrow fart. It's like my new favorite thing. And I really loved the idea that science fiction writers are poets just as much as literary fiction writers or actual poets if they're dealing with something as big as trillions of souls yet to be born. So yes, I underlined many passages that similarly bring to light the ridiculousness of my current country's dealings and theories and ideas about money and capitalism. So this was a real pleasant surprise, and I'm really pleased that I was forced kindly to read a Vonnegut, because now I'm thinking that Vonnegut might be one of the few satirical / comedic / tell me what he actually is writers that I would actually enjoy. So for today, I'm going to leave you there with God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater. Please let me know in the comments down below where I should go next with Vonnegut when I eventually get my TBR so low that I will buy books and then read them, and let me know what your opinion on Vonnegut is and actually what sort of writer he is, because I should probably know that before I film this video. But in any case, thank you for watching, and until next time, continue to be lovely.